Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about parenting, good communication, how to create bonding in our relationships, and I do that all through the lens of self-government. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to discipline a spoiled teenager. In this video, I'm going to talk about what makes a teenager spoiled and how we can combat it. And I know what I'm talking about too, because for years I have worked with teenagers. So let's talk about spoiled ones. I've raised 4 children to adulthood. I also have been the parent of troubled teens who were foster children. So for many years, I did treatment foster care for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18 years old. And I had to help them learn to not just think about themselves or not to just worry about what they get out of it. So many people don't know this about foster children, but sometimes after a child is in the system for quite a while, they actually get kind of spoiled. So everybody is doing everything for them. They are getting a whole bunch of attention. They go to therapy and get attention. They get attention from their caseworker. They get attention from their parents. And so actually some of these children who had really troubling behaviors, even though they might have been abused in the past, by the time they hit my level of care at my home, were actually kind of spoiled. And I had to help them learn to conquer some of this entitlement that looks like being spoiled. So there are multiple things that actually make a person be spoiled. I mean, there's the obvious, right? That anytime somebody wants something, you give it to them. And so this creates entitlement, and they feel like they deserve to get whatever they want. And if they don't get whatever they want, then they're going to get emotional to try to power struggle to get whatever they want. That's probably the most obvious way that people show that they're spoiled, or the way that they get spoiled. But there are other ways that people get spoiled too. Did you know that when your child has a tantrum and you power struggle with that child during that tantrum, that you're actually spoiling them? You are. They get something out of it. So years ago, I was on a BBC documentary, reality TV show, and it was called The World's Strictest Parents. And there was 2 17-year-olds that were brought to our home to stay for 8 days. And at the very beginning, for 2 whole days, they had tantrums, screaming and yelling, stomping, running away. They ran away 5 times in 2 days, and that was fine because there's nowhere to go where I live, so I knew they'd be back. Anyway, but these teens were spoiled. Now, were they raised with a lot of money? No. Were they given absolutely everything they want? No, not really. But did someone always fight with them? Yes. And that was how they were spoiled. And I knew I needed to help them. So we focused on calmness. We taught them skills that they needed to communicate in more effective ways. We're going to talk about some of those in a minute. But the very first thing that I did was decide I was not going to argue with them. So before I finish the story about what happened when I decided not to argue with them, click on that subscribe button now. There are so many great videos here you're not going to want to miss. They're going to help you with all of your teenage problems. Click subscribe now. So what happened when I decided not to argue with them? They fought harder and harder. And then finally, after 2 days of tantrums, they came back to my house and they said, okay, we're ready to be calm. And that was it. And then they were ready to be calm. And they totally changed. Well, the next day, I asked Hannah, who was the 17-year-old girl that had come to my home for that filming. I said, Hannah, for multiple days, you've been angry and out of control, and now all of a sudden, you're fine. What happened? And I want you to listen careful. She said, well, at my house, if I yell, I get my way, or at least somebody yells back. But here, you guys were just so calm, it didn't work. So we just chose to be calm too. Whoa, I hope that blows your mind. There are a lot of lessons that Hannah is teaching in that one statement. She is saying, if she yells, she gets her way. Definitely don't do that. That creates spoiled people for sure. But then she says, or at least someone yells back. So she gets something out of it. There are 2 different things she can get out of it, and both of them lead to entitlement and spoiledness. Whoa. But at our house, no one would yell back at her. And no one would give her her way. So the 2 things she always could count on, she couldn't count on anymore. She just had to be calm. And so we were just calm, so she had to be calm. And in the end, because she got calm, then things got better for her. She still didn't always get her way, but things got better for her. And the relationship improved. It changed. Big difference calmness makes. And stay to the end, because I have a gift for you that is going to help you with your calmness. So how can we help the spoiled teenager not be spoiled? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. Well, we've got to teach them the skills they need for success. First, before skill development though, they do need to have a personal investment, which means we've got to have some sort of a meeting, some sort of a plan about where we're headed and why. What is the point of these family relationships anyway? And where are we going? In our family, we always created what I called a vision. It was a plan, a picture we could hold on to in our minds that would take us in the direction that we needed to keep heading to become a united family. Even if the children were foster children, we wanted to have a spirit of unity and love in our home, no matter what problem we needed to handle. So creating a plan for the future is huge. I highly recommend creating a really good family vision. There are lots of videos on this channel that talk about that, but I also do a training on it in my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, so you can find more information there. So once we've determined where we're going as a group, or even just in our own relationship with parent and child, then the child hopefully has invested a little bit into this journey that they're taking to govern themselves. So then what we do is we teach certain skills. There are multiple skills you want to teach so that the child is held accountable. If you never teach skills ahead of time, then you are only correcting based upon preferences. And if you're correcting based upon preferences, it seems unjust. And then they will feel entitled to have justice because you're just getting ornery at them. They will rationalize. And so they won't make a change. So what you need to do is you need to teach them what they need and the skill steps that you will be referring to later when you do a correction. You're also going to teach them the exact words that you will say in a correction. This decreases their anxiety, increases predictability, and increases them taking responsibility for themselves, which is super important when a person is spoiled. There are 4 basic skills that every adult needs in order to learn self-government. And no matter the age of your child, I always teach these 4 basic skills. They are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. If your teenager learns to follow instructions, accept no answers and criticism, accept consequences, and disagree appropriately, that actually takes care of 99% of all of the behavioral problems they have. I know that seems unbelievable, but it's actually true. And when they're adults, they're going to need to give themselves instructions, no answers, acknowledge their consequences, and disagree appropriately with other people all the time. They will use these skills for life. So let's just talk about one of these skills now that's going to be vital so that they aren't spoiled anymore. One of these skills is accepting a no answer. There are 4 steps to accepting a no answer. So when a person accepts a no answer, they look at the person or the situation, they keep a calm face, voice, and body during the whole time, then they say okay to the situation, or they disagree appropriately, and then they drop the subject, which means they don't think about it anymore. Now think of the spoiled teenager who wants to bring it up again and again, who wants what they want and is not going to accept no for an answer. That person absolutely needs to learn how to keep calm and drop the subject. And probably they could use learning the skill disagreeing appropriately as well. That type of a skill set empowers them. They know what to say and do to get their way. So learning to disagree appropriately is what I call the gateway skill to self-government. It helps disengage the emotional part of the brain, which they are using when they're power struggling and having tantrums, and it engages the prefrontal cortex. After your teenager has learned the 4 basic skills, you're going to need to teach them your skills too. So in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, I teach 5 teaching styles that every parent can learn to correct problems, sometimes even solve problems before they start. These 5 teaching styles are really fantastic in helping the child learn to take ownership over their own behaviors and in order to learn to accept correction. You can't learn self-government unless you choose to accept consequences. That means we have to teach them how to choose to accept consequences. There is a skill for that, one of the 4 basic skills, but they're not going to know when to use their skill very well, at least at first, unless the correction itself is predictable. We definitely want them to know the words that we will say. And you know what? When the correction is predictable, then they get the opportunity to examine themselves during the correction instead of feeling like they're just battling against us. This decreases entitlement, increases them taking personal ownership of their own behavior as well. I know some children are going to push back against any correction. I am prepared for that. I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but I do have another video you're going to want to check out if you've enjoyed this one that will give you more information about self-government skills and principles that you can use to help your spoiled teenager. And that video is the not-so-known secret to parenting success. It's a full class that's going to go into a lot of great detail for you, so click on the link to that video now and I'll see you there.